So we're talking about some tips to dominate Denver's real estate market. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to hire a real estate broker who's right for you. I think there's a lot of people who think that all realtors are the same or all realtors are similar. I think I've heard people say stuff like, anybody can open doors, like the job's not that big of a deal, right?
How easy is it to open doors?
That's a whole separate video. Now, when you were thinking about buying a house, what kinds of things did you think were top of mind for like hiring somebody to help you out?
Well, definitely needed somebody that was going to fight through the market because I knew interest rates were crazy and that they were going to be going up.
They were crazy low.
Yeah. And I knew it was at that point that had started going up already. But then, I knew you, so yeah.
I was top of mind. But that's how most people hire. That's how most people, you got lucky.
Yes. Yes. I did.
Yeah, and fighting for you, that's negotiation, right? Like it's so important to have somebody who has not only negotiation skills, but also like is pretty knowledgeable with contracts. This whole deal is full of legal documents, contracts, disclosures, forms. Like if you're working with somebody who isn't comfortable with contracts or they don't quite understand that, or they're not comfortable like writing in things that need to be written in or how to fill that out, it's like 20 pages long. Like you need somebody who knows what they're doing with contracts for sure.
And then you submit something, and then if one thing's wrong, you got to do it all over again too.
Well, and this is part of the fiduciary duty of when you hire a real estate broker to become your agent, right? And that's it. And I think maybe it would be good to back up and talk about like the difference between like the real estate brokers, which that's everybody who has their license, real estate agent and realtor, because we use those terms kind of interchangeably, but they do have different meanings.
Right.
Do you remember like what the difference is between the broker and the agent?
Well, I know the broker like owns the agency basically. Like
that's true in some states outside Colorado, actually. In other states, when you refer to a broker, they're referring to what we here in Colorado call the employing broker. So the person who owns the brokerage is the employing broker. Those people might have managing brokers that are in charge of some of the agents or in charge of the agents. But yeah, anybody who got their license in Colorado is considered a real estate broker. They don't become your agent until you hire them to become your agent. That's the thing. Like you have to sign the contract to hire them to be your agent to either buy or sell. And at that point, the relationship changes. It turns into like a therapist patient or
like a kind of
attorney client
thing.
Yeah, it's like an attorney client sort of relationship while you're under contract, right?
Right.
And that's because then at that point, the person is working solely on your behalf. They are your agent. And they are at that point putting your goals in real estate and your needs and everything above all others in the transaction, and not just above the other party, right? Like if you're the buyer, we're putting your needs ahead of the seller, right? But also ahead of my needs too, right?
Right.
So like I have to be very aware of like in this deal, like I recognize that it is beneficial to me to close deals, right?
Right.
And so I walk a line there of making sure that when we close the deal, like it's what you wanted.
It's in my best interest.
And it's in your best interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I have integrity on the list of things to look for when you're hiring somebody, because if you can't trust that person to give you all the information that you need to make the best decision for you, if you're not sure, Like if you're not sure that they might steer you in another direction just so they can close the deal, that's not, you shouldn't hire that person.
Run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a big purchase.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's the biggest purchase you ever make.
Most people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about one of the things that I'm not great at. So, because I serve our alternative lifestyle communities, I tend to work all over Denver Metro. So I do not have like specialized neighborhood expertise in a particular neighborhood or in a couple of neighborhoods. Like I know some more than others, obviously, but I'm much more generalized in that way. And so if you are a person who is trying to target a specific area, or you feel like you want somebody who really knows, you can walk into some neighborhoods and find a realtor who knows all of the retail. They know all about the schools. They know, the whole history of the neighborhood.
Some of the neighbors.
They probably know half the neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's something that's important to you, it's definitely something to ask about. What neighborhoods do you have expertise in? Another thing you want to look for when you're deciding who to hire to be your realtor or your agent is their experience, right? And going along with that, are they part-time or full-time in the business?
Right.
I mean, yeah. How many realtors do you know that are part-time?
Oh, too many probably, actually, especially here in Colorado.
Yeah, tons. And we just said, like, this is more money than you ever spend on anything. So, like, why would you take that amount of money and then sort of trust it with somebody who
does it
is
part-time?
Part-time, yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great question.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I think the only answer is that because people usually hire whoever comes to mind first.
Or if they know them, they're their family, somebody's cousin.
Also, how much experience do they have?
And their availability.
Yeah, because if you find somebody who's like face is on billboards and they're running a team and they pop up first on your Google search and they're doing, 100 transactions a year or 250 transactions a year, like you're like, yes, they're experienced and probably very good at what they do, but also like, are you actually going to be working with that person?
Right.
They're probably sending
their team.
Yeah, they're probably sending somebody on their team out for showings. They probably have a transaction coordinator. They have other people, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing, right? Like it's something that I think people should be aware of in the industry so that they can make the decision that's best for them, right?
Right.
Because also like looking up, like you can go on homes.com and look up any agent and see how many transactions that they've been doing. So if somebody's doing, I would say less than one transaction a month, like you get down much lower than that in terms of transactions per year. Like somebody who's maybe only doing 5 transactions a year or 3 or even 6, that's, they're not in it all the time. Like I'm not even sure that they could sustain themselves, right, financially with that few of deals. Right. And the more often that you're doing deals, the more experience you have. So I like to look at how many years they've been in the business and also like how many transactions did they do last year? How many transactions have they done in the last few years? Just to get kind of a better idea of how experienced they are. What else? Okay, we talked about part-time versus full-time. We talked about neighborhood expertise. Let me just grab the book. So related to that, like how often somebody is working and doing deals in real estate, I think goes along with market expertise. Like how well is this person kind of knowledgeable about the current market that we're in? Because every time you go to submit an offer or you receive an offer and you're looking at it, the market that we're in is dictating like what will fly and what won't, right? just as an example, like in the market that we're in right now, I feel completely comfortable submitting an offer for a buyer where we're asking for 10 grand in seller concessions. And that's something that I would have never done a couple years ago. I would not get any offer accepted if I did that a couple years ago. But now, because I'm full-time, because I work in the market, because I'm keep up to date on all the market trends, like I have a really good idea of what will fly and what won't, what's acceptable in the marketplace right at this moment in time.
Right. That's cool. That's really cool to be able to like kind of pick and choose like what would be best for the homeowner though. Like getting the best deal and all of that. So,
Yes,
which is why, well, yeah, saving the most money, right? Again, it comes back down to the money. So, of course.
It is. It's a financial asset. It is a lot. There is a lot of stuff around money that revolves around real estate, for sure. Another thing that I have on my list of stuff to look at when you're deciding who to hire are communication skills.
Oh,
right? Like we talked about negotiation skills, but like communication skills.
yes.
How do you think that your experience would have been like worse or better or whatever, like depending on the communication, like looking back at all of it?
Well, I know I'm like an over communicator too, so I'm like, give me more information than what I need to know, especially if it's something that I'm like trying to understand anyways that I need to learn, I guess, ultimately.
Like new topics that you're learning.
Yeah. So then like kind of getting through the process was like a whole learning curve for me, like just everything. Everything that I thought I knew was out the window. I was like, this is not what I thought at all. But if somebody wasn't giving me the information that I wanted and needed and in a timely manner, I would have moved on.
I love this in a timely manner thing because so one of the things that I love about my job is being able to bring all my project management skills into it. Because circling back around to the money again, right? Like in Colorado, there's like 20 different ways to get out of this contract as a buyer and keep your earnest money, like not forfeit your earnest money back to the seller because you're terminating the contract, right? But every single one of those ways to terminate the contract and get your earnest money back involves a deadline. And so, like, there is just so much communication that needs to happen all the way along, like starting with the education piece of like, here's what the process will look like.
Right.
But then, like, once you're in the process and I'm doing the whole like guide, right, where I'm like holding your hand the whole way through, like, okay, this is what we're done with this and this is what we got to do next, right?
Remember, this is the next part.
Yeah. And that whole time, like I'm managing these deadlines that whole time because there's so many deadlines in that contract and you just have to be on top of all of them, right? And that requires my client to cooperate with the deadlines, right? So I'm communicating constantly through a deal because I want to make sure that my client's not going to lose their earnest money on accident.
Right.
That's like my biggest nightmare, my biggest fear.
That was the biggest fear of mine was because, I mean, between my appraisal gap money and then the earnest money, I was just like,
that was all of your money.
All my money.
And that's so true for so many first-time home buyers, that they're going into this and they're handing over this earnest money. And, and some buyers still have additional money that they're putting for their down payment and closing costs and things. But like in your case with the VA loan, and you don't need to have a down payment, right? Or if you're using first-time home buyers assistance programs and you don't necessarily need a bunch of money for a down payment. Yeah, it's like all the money you have saved in the world. It's so scary.
Yep. And now, of course, they're not even really doing appraisal gaps and all of that, right? In the market. So I'm like, yeah, that was cool. It was cool.
So when I got into the real estate industry as a profession, there was this stuff that I learned about the industry that I just didn't even realize was a thing, right? But it is just sort of like baked into the industry. Um, and a couple of those things are like whether or not you're at a brokerage and this idea of teams, real estate teams. So people on a team will definitely have some resources and backup who are readily available. But that can be true of, people who are just at a brokerage. And even though I have my own brokerage and I am the main point of contact and I'm doing the whole deal, um, I still have resources available to me. I have people that I can ask if I need to ask a question. I have colleagues that I can pull in if I am sick or out of town and I need somebody to step in for me. So I think more than so I'm not recommending that you either do or don't go with somebody on a team or do or don't go with somebody at a brokerage or who's independent. I think the important thing is that you know that all of those options are out there.
Right.
And then the question as you're interviewing realtors becomes, who is my main point of contact? Who are there going to be other people helping me through this process at your office? What happens if you have a question? Who do you go to for support? What happens if you're sick or you need to travel? Who will then be my contact? Who will be taking care of me? Right. So those are the kinds of questions to ask, knowing that there are all these different types of situations that real estate brokers can be in.
Right.
Yeah. So we've gone through a long list of things to think about as you're interviewing realtors and deciding who you want to be your agent. And I hope that some of these things were helpful. If you like this content, follow the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe.